exactly how I'd invest $10,000 in 3 ways if I was starting from scratch and wanting to become a millionaire. Thanks so much to Perla for sponsoring this video, but I'll talk more about them later. And just remember that this video is general advice only and not personal financial advice. You can read my full financial services guide in the description. So the first way I'd invest $10,000 is by investing in the First Home Buyer Super Saver Scheme. I honestly wish I knew about this scheme when I was saving for my first home. So let's say, for example, you earn $80,000 and you salary sacrifice $10,000 per year into the First Home Super Saver Scheme. That means after 5 years you would have saved $50,000, which is over $13,000 more than if you saved in a high interest savings account. And at this point you may be wondering, why is it that you're $13,000 better off than if you're saving in a high interest savings account? And the reason why you're better off by $13,000 is because super is only taxed at 15%, whereas most of our marginal tax rates are above 30%. And you also get to benefit from a 30% tax offset when you're withdrawing your deposit amount. Just remember that you can only withdraw your extra salary sacrifice contributions, and you can't withdraw any of the mandatory contributions that your employer makes. And there are also limits on how much you can withdraw using this scheme. You can withdraw $15,000 of your voluntary contributions from any one financial year, and up to a total of $50,000 across multiple years, plus associated earnings. I honestly wish I knew about this scheme earlier when I was saving for my first home, so if you are saving for your first home, I hope this helps you. So the next way I'd invest $10,000 is by investing in ETFs. And if you're wondering what an ETF is, let me explain it with chocolate. When you go to the shops, you can buy individual pieces of chocolate like Mars, Snickers, and more, just like you can buy individual stocks on the stock market. Or you could buy a box of chocolates with a mix of different chocolates in the one purchase, which is essentially like an ETF. Benefits of investing in ETFs is you can essentially buy all of the stocks on the stock market, which can be quite time-consuming and expensive. By investing in an ETF, you essentially get a basket of different shares in one investment, and it's a simple, diversified, and long-term investment. Fun fact, the first ever index fund or ETF was created by John Bogle. He believes instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, which means trying to pick the best stock on the market, it's better to just buy the whole haystack. And by haystack, he means the whole stock market. And that's exactly what ETFs are all about. Keep in mind that before you start investing, it's a good idea to pay down any high interest debt above 8% and build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved in cash in a bank account. This is so that you don't have to dip into your investments at a bad time in the market. And here are some examples of ETF portfolio options. The first one is VGS and VAS. This combination covers the Australian and international stock markets without them overlapping. VGS invests in the top 1,500 companies from developed countries outside of Australia. There's a 0.18% management fee for this ETF, and it gives you access to companies such as Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, and more. And if you invested $10,000 into this ETF 5 years ago, you would have $18,068 today. VAS tracks the top 300 companies on the Australian Stock Exchange. They have a 0.07% management fee, and the top holdings for this ETF include BHP, Commonwealth Bank, CSL, NAB, Westpac, and more. If you invested $10,000 into this ETF 5 years ago, you would have $14,910 today. And if you're looking to invest ethically, an example ethical ETF portfolio is FAIR and VESG. FAIR is quite similar to VAS, but it screens out companies that don't meet their ethical standards. As a result, instead of having 300 companies in this ETF, it has 80 companies. Actively screening out companies does come with a higher management fee of 0.49%, but for some investors, this is a price they're willing to pay for that peace of mind. The average annual return for FAIR over a 5-year period is 6.33% per year. And VESG is similar to VGS but with a more ethical focus. And if you invested $10,000 into VESG 5 years ago, you would have $18,197 today. And if you're ready to get started investing, I've partnered with Perla, which is an amazing platform for long-term investors. If you have the skills to buy something on your phone, then you have the skills to make an investment, and I'll show you how you can do it with Perla. I click here, invest in AU shares. Here I can search for the ETF I would like to buy, for example, VESG. I click on buy. I can put in how much I would like to invest, for example, $1,000. And then to buy it, I simply click on next and then confirm. And if you would like to try Perla out for yourself, you can use my code Queenie for a $20 credit. Something that I wish I knew when I started investing is that you can actually use this money that you have invested for your later long-term financial goals. For me personally, I started investing around 8 years ago, and at that time, I didn't really have a strong sense of why I was investing. I just knew I wanted to get started and start building my wealth. After 8 years, I was continually investing, and having this money invested has enabled me to do so many things I never would have dreamed of. I was able to quit my job and go full-time on my business. I was able to spend 4 months last year traveling the world, and I was even able to sell some of my investment portfolio in order to buy a bigger home for my family. Having investments and financial security has enabled me to do so many positive things with my life, and I'm so grateful that I started investing when I did. I know investing can seem really daunting, and it may seem like there's no point investing small amounts of money. But something I wish I knew when I was getting started is that your first $100,000 is the hardest and it takes the longest. And did you know that when you reach your first $100,000, you're actually 1/3 of the way to $1 million? I know this sounds crazy and incorrect, but let me explain. If you invest $100 per week with an 8% return, it would take you 12 years to reach your first $100,000. But to go from $100,000 to $200,000, it would only take you 6 years. And to go from $900,000 to $1 million, it would only take you 1 year. And the reason why is because of compound interest. Your first $100,000 is the hardest and it takes the longest. But once you reach your first $100,000, it gets easier because it gets easier to make more money as you have more money invested. So keep in mind when you are investing, it will get easier. And the next way I'd invest $10,000 is by investing in a side hustle or a business. 4 years ago, I started creating content on YouTube and social media. And if you were to tell me 4 years ago that 4 years later, I would be able to work on my business full time with my partner Pablo while still raising a 6-month-old baby and being able to do talks at international conventions, I would have told you you were crazy. But those are just some of the things that are possible when you do start your own business. The way I see it is you can get paid to work for somebody else on somebody else's business, or you can pay yourself to work on your own business. The choice is yours at the end of the day. Entrepreneurship and having your own business is definitely not for everybody. But if you have this burning desire to start your own business and you have an idea that you're really passionate about, then this could be something that's worth trying. Depending on your goals, you could even use a combination of all of these strategies. But I'm curious to hear from you, how would you invest $10,000? And don't forget, if you would like to start your investing journey, you can check out Perla and use my code Queenie for a $20 credit. And write me a comment below with the word America in it, just so we know you watched this video all the way through.
Thank you.
Thank you.